Because we are the reason, therefore we have this hope. And by now I believe that you know what this hope is, and that is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And it is in plain sight, meaning that we can see it coming. We can see Jesus coming. I want to tell a story of a Cuban fighter pilot who defected to America. His name is Lorenzo, and he has a wife of 35 years old and two small children of 11 and 6 years old. And one day, Lorenzo revealed to his wife that he has plans to defect and seek political asylum in America. And he promised the wife that he would come back and get them to the land of freedom in America. And so in March 23rd, 1991, on a training mission, he is the captain of a fighter squadron. And he took off during a flying training mission and head towards Key West. And those are the chains of islands at the southern tip of Florida. And it took him only 14 to 15 minutes to arrive at the Key West Naval Station. And he flew around for a few minutes. And as you know that, obviously, the US fighter jets scramble up and intercept the jet. And he was so worried that the fighter jets would shoot it down. But these pilots, they have body language as far as the plane is concerned. It kind of waggles his tail, its end, to show that he has no hostile intent. And after a while, he was escorted to land in the Naval Air Base. And to cut a long story short, he sought political asylum and was granted. And for the next 18 months, he put in so much effort in trying to get his family to join him through peaceful means. He campaigned very hard, to put into prominence his desire to get his family to join him. He once met George Bush in 1991, I think, and to ask George Bush to urge the Cuban government to release the wife and the two children, which was already granted the US visa. But Fidel Castro would not agree. And so, Lorenzo had no choice. He has to take matters into his own hand. He devised a plan where he is going to fly back into Cuba and get the family to join him. But before that, he sent two trusted friends from Mexico to bring messages to the wife as to the place where they are to be, and they are to wear bright orange tops so they can be easily recognized, and they are to be around the eastern coastal highway of Cuba. And he bought a 1961 Cessna, a four-seater twin-engine Cessna, through the donations of fellow Cubans who are already in America. And he flew this plane just a little less than 100 feet above sea level. It took him about 45 minutes. And when he flew over the cliff along the coast and landed on the highway, there was a truck that was coming on right in front of him. And that truck screeched to a stop, just barely 10 yards from the plane propeller. And as he landed, He turned the plane around and get hold of the wife and the two sons into the plane and took off, barely skimming the waves of the ocean. And the greatest concern, according to his story, that he was afraid that he would be pursued by the Cuban fighter jets and be shot down. But somehow, they arrived safely at the land of promise. And that's the land of freedom in America. You know, Jesus also gave us the promise that he will return and go back to heaven. But not in this Cessna, of course. This Cessna is only a 4-seater Cessna. If Jesus Christ is going to come in only a 4-seater, I think, Muru and Roy and Dickie and Selena will have the chance. And we have, 100 over people down here. What happened to the rest? But we are told in the Bible that Jesus is going to come with thousands upon thousands of angels. You know, in Acts chapter 1, verse 9 to 11, it says that now when he had spoken these things while they watched, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, who also said, "The men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will so come in like manner as you saw him go into heaven." And that is the promise, just as Lorenzo gave the promise to the wife. You know, in the New Testament, 1 out of every 25 verses in the New Testament is related to the second coming of Jesus. You know, in Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, it says, "Behold, he is coming with clouds, and every eye will see him, even they who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. Even so, amen." And in Revelation chapter 3, verse 11, "Behold, I am coming quickly. Hold fast what you have, that no one may take your crown." We see the recurring words, "Behold, behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to everyone according to his work." You know, we find that the word behold, what does it mean to behold? To look? Not only to look, but to look with a focus and to look seriously. But with all these promises, where is Jesus? For 2,000 years, these words were recorded, were spoken, heard by the disciples, by Paul, John, Peter, and so on. And this is a burning question. The wife of Lorenzo waited for only 2 years. But here it has been already 2,000 years. Another question is, how long more? Now, this is a question that has been asked of me almost every day in my work. And this is a very, very stressful question. Because people wearing braces, after close to 2 years, they will start asking this question, "Doctor, how long more?" And oftentimes the treatment is not ready to be done, braces removed. How long more? You know, as human beings, you know, patience and waiting is not our forte, right? Can we know when the end is near? You know, Revelation chapter 16, verse 15, it says that, "Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." Now, walk naked does not mean that you are going to be physically naked, but spiritually naked. And what is the operative word down here? We saw behold, and now we see the operative word, watch. Watch is a proactive word. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 4 to 6, which Dickie has just read, I won't read it. And the Bible is asking us to watch. But what are we to watch for? Oftentimes, we are busy people. With work, we are very often distracted in the things that we do. We don't even see the signs that are around us. And we just walk blindly, not knowing what is ahead. You look at this picture here. This guy is obviously totally absorbed with what he's doing. Maybe he's playing Pokemon. I was kind of wondering, what is Pokemon? I heard my patients, there are children, teenagers talking about it. So out of curiosity, I went to Google up. And this Pokemon craze is about players trying to go hunt and capture a digital monster. Nurture it, prepare it, so that it will be full grown, so that they can use this digital monster and fight with another monster, with another player. I don't know whether I'm right, but that is the idea that I have. You see, we live in a world that is, we are so distracted that oftentimes we do not see what is going around us. Bernard McGinn, University of Chicago, Divinity School, he says that, there is a ever-increasing interest about the end times. He said, over the 30 years, more scholarship or studies has been devoted to apocalypticism, that's last events, than in the last 300 years. There's a book written by Eugene Linden. It says, The Future in Plain Sight. Now you can see where I copy the title of my lesson. The title of my sermon. I just changed the word future. Now, he cited 9 clues as to the future instability of our world. And you know what? He wrote this book 20 years ago, almost. And when you go through it, you realize that how accurate he was. Now, he is not a seer, like Gene Dixon, who predict future events and things like that. But he is a renowned, award-winning writer. He very often writes in the area of science, technology, and the environment. And, he is not a Christian. But you find that people out there who are non-Christians, based on the evidences that they see through their observation, they realize that something is not right with our world. And this is what he wrote, 9 clues. Collapse of global economy, migration of poor to cities, population explosion, global warming, economic disparity between the rich and the poor. Has all this come to pass and is still ongoing? I'm sure you can agree with him, right? The collapse of our bioecosystem, and that is the big word, simply means our environment, our natural environment. Water and food shortages, infectious diseases, radical fundamentalism in religions. He wrote that 20 years ago, and today we see that the progression and the ever-presence of this radicalism. Dr. Stephen Hawking, astrophysicist, Sir Isaac Newton Chair of Mathematics, Cambridge University. Now, he believes in evolution. He's not a believer. And he has this to say, I fear that since the evolutionary process has worked through the dialectic of determinism and aggression, this phrase is very hard to understand. Our long-term survival and any hope for our species is in question. Now, he is a very sharp, intelligent person. In fact, he is known as the successor to Einstein, Albert Einstein. And however, he is being affected by this disease called Lou Gehrig's disease. And he could only communicate by moving some of his fingers. But he's a very insightful man. And this is what he proposed as a solution to the impending trouble. And he said, however, if we can keep from destroying each other for the next 100 years, sufficient technology will have been developed to distribute humanity to various planets. And then no one tragedy or atrocity will eradicate us all at the same time. Now, this is somewhat far-fetched, isn't it? I do not think in 1,000 years that we will have a developed that will be able to sustain any life in any other planet. Now, I'm not trying to second guess this man of great intelligence, but obviously, we know better from the scriptures. Jesus in Matthew chapter 24, as we call the 9 clues of Eugene Linden, it reminds us of the book of Matthew chapter 24, where all the signs are given. But of course, there are many other signs in other parts of the Bible, but there is a encapsulation, a gathering of all these evidences in Matthew chapter 24. But there are 2 verses which stands out. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, it says, all this is the beginning of birth pangs. Right, we heard David Ng talks about the beginning of sorrow. All right? And, he equates the events that this earth is experiencing as birth pangs. And we know that, when birth pangs begins, it just doesn't stay there. With the progression of time, it gets more intense and it gets more frequent. And in verse 32, it says that, learn this lesson from the parable of the fig tree. When its branch has become tender, put forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. This analogy has 3 things in common. Of course, it is visible. It is progressive. Progressive because as we look at the things that's happening in the world, it's nothing new except that it's more frequent, it's more intense. And it reaches from here to there and arrive at the climax. So in Matthew chapter 23, verse 24, 33, it says, so likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Matthew 24, verse 24 tells us the 10 signs of the times, right? And I will go through them quickly. It says false Christs and false prophets, wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilences, earthquakes. We have heard all of these before. Destructive weather, increasing violence, pleasure-driven society, loss of family values, and of course the biggest sign, the last sign is the gospel will go to all the world. False Christs and false prophets, there are a number of them, that we can recall. Talk about Jim Jones, Jose Luis, Jesus Miranda, this is the most recent one. The Moonies, David Koresh, Marshall Applewhite, that led many of his followers to death, believing that they are going to hitch the ride with Halley's Comet into paradise. I think it took place in a place near San Diego, if I remember correctly. Wars and rumors of wars, well, we have more destructive weapons today, right? And there are more killed in the last century than the previous 20 centuries. And our world experience this unrest, this war and rumors of war all the time. And then talk about famines, 1/6 of Earth is experiencing a famine, right? Every day, 50,000 to 90,000 will die because of starvation. And many countries produce little or no food, right? And agricultural land is decreasing. Weather patterns, climate change, global warming, which I'll mention later on, all this contribute to this situation. Now, this picture tells it all. I was debating whether I should put up this picture because it can be somewhat disturbing. But this photojournalist from South Africa, he happened to be in Sudan, and he took this photo shoot. And he saw this vulture landed behind this little girl. His parents left her behind because they were going to collect the food supplies from a United Nations plane who had just arrived in the area. And a vulture landed. And he took about 20 minutes to get the best shot. And he won the Pulitzer Award for taking this very controversial picture. But you know what? He committed suicide 3 months after that. And what he did was he connected a hose to his exhaust pipe into the driver's seat and died because of carbon monoxide poisoning. And he wrote a note and says this, suicide note, I'm really, really sorry. The pain of life overrides the joy to the point that joy does not exist. I'm haunted by the vivid memories of killings and corpses and anger and pain, of starving or wounded children, of trigger-happy madmen, often police, of killer executioners. I'm just reading part of the note. Today, I believe that there are many who are experiencing such emotions. Pestilences, we have heard of all this: AIDS, SARS, bird flu, Ebola, mad cow disease, Zika. And what is worrying medical experts is that the current available antibiotics are not as effective as they used to be. And most of these bacteria are very resistant to antibiotics. Earthquakes, well, we know so much of this. Only this past week, we heard the destructive earthquake in Italy. And so many lost their lives, properties were destroyed, and we see its increasing frequency and intensity. In Luke chapter 21, verse 25, 26, it says that, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, in the stars, and on the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Man's heart failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming onto the earth. He's not referring only to believers. As I shared with you, Eugene Linton, Stephen Hawkins, unbelievers, but they have recognized what is going on. Well, I'd like to comment about environmental change. James Lovelock wrote this book, The Revenge of Gallia. Gallia, by the way, is the Earth's crust, all right? And it says that we are now approaching one of these tipping points, and our future is like that of the passengers on a small pleasure boat sailing quietly above Niagara Falls, not knowing that the engines are about to fail. What a graphic depiction of humanity, isn't it? Corey Powell, former NASA scientist, observed that at least 30,000 species vanish every year from human activity, which means we are living in the midst of one of the greatest mass extinctions in Earth's history. Ian Johnston, environment correspondent, noted this: rate of species decline no longer within safe limit for humans. Well, I received an article just this last week, 2 weeks ago, and it's about global warming. Just last month, July 2016, was recorded as the Earth's warmest month. It has been recorded over the past several years that the world's temperature is increasing by almost 1 degree every year due to the use of fossil fuel by the activities of the human race. Tony Blair, we all know who Tony Blair is, the former Prime Minister of England. What is not in doubt is that the scientific evidence of global warming is now overwhelming. The consequences for our planet are literally disastrous and will be irreversible. So, we see global warnings, in the natural world, the political world, social world, financial world, the religious world. Now, you see that I've mentioned the 10 signs in Matthew chapter 24, but I'm not going through all of them. But I'll just mention about something that involves all of us, our pocketbooks, right? Financial sign, okay? And this is what James chapter 5, verse 1 to 5 said. And how true that is, you look at big business. The top 200 companies contribute over 25% of the world's economy. Wealth is concentrated in a small elite group. Of the top 100 largest economies, 51 are global corporations, only 49 are countries. Can you imagine that? For example, Ford is bigger than South Africa. General Motors is bigger than Norway. We are all lay people, we are all affected by all this. You heard people say, you go to market, and the buying power has shrinked. I think you can experience this yourself. But I'm sharing with you all this not to frighten you. Of course, we are concerned, but this is in the scriptures, and we are seeing it happening in our lifetime. In John chapter 14, verse 3, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Isn't this comforting? Yes, we have to experience these tough times, but joy of glory will come. Now in Luke chapter 21, verse 28, it says, now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws nigh. May God bless each one of us as we look around us as to our hope, which is in real plain sight.